Hey Tribe, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. So thank you so much for being here. You can see what's behind me. We're in my tiny RV kitchen, so that means this is going to be a cooking video. I'm not just making a single dish though. I'm actually making multiple dishes all at the same time. So we're going to show you how that process works, and I'm going to show you a pretty cool hack, I think, for cutting bell peppers without having to deal with all the seeds. All right. Thank you to my channel members for being here. If you want to consider joining as a channel member, there'll be a QR code over here, I think, for you to click on, or in the description down below. You can also buy me a coffee. I've just introduced that recently. There'll be a link maybe here, but definitely in the description down below. As always, thank you so much for being here. We're going to roll the intro and get right into this.
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes. Journey calls, let's roll the dice. Every mile a new surprise.
What I've got going on right now is just one onion that was about the size of that one, sliced up thinly, and we're going to start sauteing that, and then I'm going to cut up some bell peppers to go with it, and I might put some canned mushrooms in too, we'll see. But basically, I want to make onions and peppers so that I can make sausage and peppers, and I'm kind of thinking about making this mixture and then freezing it for later. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Let me get these peppers cut up. Alright, I never really thought this was going to be something that was really interesting to see, but I'm going to show you how I cut bell peppers, because I've seen people cutting them in all kinds of ways that I think is way more difficult than it needs to be. This is my bag of garbage to hold on to stuff, so sorry it's not the best view, but that's what you get. So you start by cutting a slice off, and then you go to the side and cut the next slice, and then you go and cut the next slice. I've got 3 sides done now, and then here's the 4th one. Now if you want, you can also cut off the base, and I usually do, but here's what you're left with. All the seeds intact, and no mess for you to have to deal with. I've seen a lot of different ways to cut bell peppers, but this is by far the easiest as far as I'm concerned. Now this one had a lot of the pith left, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, just like this, so that I end up with nice clean pieces. And I've already cut one of these. And then all we're going to do is just slice it up, so we can add it in with the rest of the peppers that we've already cut, plus the onions that are already sauteing. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to add mushrooms too. The pan's getting pretty full, so I'm not too sure. And this knife is getting a little bit dull. I'm not sure if it can be sharpened or if I'm going to need to get a new one. But the alternative is to use the point and just drag it all the way down. And that makes it fairly quick. Yeah, this knife is getting pretty dull. Alright, so that's half of this pepper done. Let me give this a stir. I'm not sure I'm going to use this whole second one. Yeah, I think that's going to be about good. We got a big old pan of onions and peppers going. We're going to wait until the peppers just begin to soften, and then we're going to just turn this off and let it cool down. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and add add mushrooms as we go, because it's easy enough to add those when I reheat a batch of it. And I think I'm going to divide this into probably 4 sections to freeze up, so that I can make sausage and peppers whenever I feel like it. So when you're doing something like this and you're going to freeze it for use later, you want to undercook the vegetables as compared to what you would normally do. And you do need to let them cool completely before you package them up. Ideally, if I had a big enough cookie sheet, I would lay them out on a cookie sheet, probably on some paper towels, to absorb more of the moisture, but I don't have the ability to do that, so I'm not gonna. Alright, I think I'm gonna just chop the rest of this one up and then freeze that to use in something else, probably soup or stew or something like that. So there you have it. This is about as done as I want it for freezing. So I'm going to let this cool down completely. It's seasoned with salt, pepper, and garlic powder, sauteed in olive oil. That's all there is to this. I'm going to hold out a smallish portion of this for my dinner this evening and add some mushrooms to it, and I might saute some cabbage in there as well. I've got some red cabbage to use up, which will make it into a pretty big vegetable dish. So that's what we got. I'll show you what, I will probably show you what dinner looks like as well as part of this video. Now, I'm sure I've showed you this before, but I guess I'm going to be showing you again. These are my bell peppers that I'm going to freeze raw, all cut up and labeled. And all I'm going to do is put them in my vacuum sealer here. Squeeze the ends down. And I'm going to choose moist for my food. Now, I might end up stopping this if it looks like it's sealing too hard, but we're going to just press Vac Seal. I'm going to stand by here with my finger on the stop button. This is a very powerful vacuum sealer for as small as it is. Yeah, see, that's plenty. And then I'm going to switch to seal. If you really let it suck every single solitary bit of molecule of air out, it also starts sucking all of the juice out. And then you kind of end up with a mushy product that way, which I don't like. So I'm doing it this way. And that's all there is to this. It's like one of the easiest things in the world. So that's all done. And then you end up with something like this. Now, it won't be true in this case, but I usually leave the whole size of the bag rather than cutting it down to a smaller size for a lot of things, because I can reuse the bag. I just cut the top off, take out what I want, and then reseal it again. And I can throw it right into the freezer. So let's do that. All right. So that's how that works. Well, we started here with a pretty full frying pan, and I took most of it out and transferred it into the only kind of baking dish that I have, trying to spread it out a little bit further. And I decided to do this, even though it means I'm going to have an extra dish to wash, because as you can see down there, there's still a fair amount of liquid left in the pan, and I really want to minimize the amount of liquid that goes into the bags when I freeze this into probably 3 portions. So I'm going to get my cabbage out and take a look at it, make sure it's still good, and slice some of that up, and then I'll saute some cabbage and mushrooms along with my onions and bell peppers, and I think that'll be pretty awesome in this pan for my dinner this evening. Alright, we've got the frying pan fired up again. I'm going to add just a little more olive oil, and then dump in all of my shredded cabbage. So, it's kind of funny. I have finally learned how to buy, or learned to buy, pretty small heads of cabbage. I used to always buy the biggest head I could get. And in RV life, I end up throwing a lot of it away because RV refrigerators do not keep things as well, especially vegetables, as well as conventional home refrigerators do. And so I don't get through as much of it. And I could probably add the cabbage in with the peppers and stuff to have some to freeze too, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to saute this up, let it get kind of wilty, and I'll dump the peppers and onions that I reserved back in here, and then I'll decide if I'm going to add some mushrooms to this or not. I don't have any idea yet. We might be finding out together, but this will take a few minutes. So I'll get back with you. Alright, so I put the onions and peppers in with the cabbage, and this is about 3/4 of the way cooked. So what I'm going to do next is take half of this out and put it in a glass storage container and let this cool down, the other half cool down. And then I'm going to put a sausage in the pan with the remainder, and that's going to be my dinner for this evening. And then the other half of this will get reheated again with another sausage for my dinner tomorrow. But this way I end up with all of my vegetables cooked exactly the right way for the dish, rather than cooking it all the way and then having it turn into mush. Hope that makes sense. Stand by. So this is my leftovers container that I can have for dinner tomorrow night. And I went ahead and put the extra sausage in there when I'll put the lid on after it cools down a little bit more. But this way, if I really get lazy, I can just microwave it. And meanwhile, I put this sausage in here to cook up a little bit. And I'm still going to keep stirring my cabbage around so that it gets my cabbage, onion, bell pepper mix so that it gets completely cooked. And I've got a plate ready to put this on because the plate was holding the peppers and onions that I've reserved to cook with the cabbage. So the point that I'm trying to make here, and I don't know that I'm making it really well, is that this is one meal. That's another meal that will go in the refrigerator. This is going to get split up into 3 packages, which will be 3 more meals that I can use with ground beef, I can use with more sausages, but basically a relatively small amount of prep work to get 5 meals. Pretty cool, I think. Let me know what you think. And I guess I'll show you this on the plate when it's all said and done. It won't be particularly attractive because, you know, I'm letting my sausage get covered with cabbage, but you get the idea. And there you have it. This is tonight's dinner. And I've got tomorrow night's dinner, and then after I eat, I'll package up the remainder of the peppers and onions and get those in the freezer. I'll be able to put the lid on tomorrow's dinner and put that in the refrigerator. And I'm feeling pretty pleased with what I've accomplished today. So I'm curious, what do you think about this method of prepping food? Is this something that's appealing to you, being able to make, multiple different dishes at the same time? I like it because it gets more variety in and it minimizes the amount of mess that I have to make. As always, thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. If you think you are, double check to make sure. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.